This YouTube video will change college admissions forever. For years, students have been getting spoon-fed the same old advice. Get a perfect GPA, load up on extracurriculars, and write solid college essays. But what if I told you that's not actually how top schools pick students in 2025? Right now, hundreds of thousands of students apply to Ivy Leagues every single year, and the Ivy League acceptance rate, on average, sits at around 4%. That means that for every one student who gets accepted, 24 others get rejected. But here's the crazy part. Most of those rejected students had perfect scores, impressive extracurriculars, and great essays. So what's really going on here? In this video, I'm going to be breaking down how college admissions actually works in 2025, the two-step profile building process that you need to follow, and finally the key things you need to do when writing a great college application and preparing for your Ivy League interview. And to make sure that you have everything that you need, I'm giving away all my world-leading resources to you for free in the description, including my 1-hour college admissions mastery course and my personal statement that got me into Harvard on a full ride scholarship. So stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to become a top applicant in 2025 that your dream schools can't ignore. Also, before we dive into today's video, if you want free one-on-one college admissions support with myself, then be sure to subscribe to this channel and fill out my website form at the top of the description, because I select one new student every single week to help them reach their college dreams for free. Okay, let's get started with my two-step profile building framework that every top applicant must follow in 2025 to get into their dream schools. The first step of this two-step profile building framework is to select your field. One of the biggest mistakes students make when applying to top universities is treating their extracurriculars like a checklist of random achievements instead of a cohesive, strategic story. If you want to stand out, the first thing you need to do is select your field, which is the degree or major that you plan to pursue in college and beyond. Once you've selected the field that you plan to commit to, everything should be built around that field. Every extracurricular, internship, and research experience should connect back to this field in some kind of way. The reason this is so important is because the most valuable thing you can show college admissions committees in 2025 is evidence that you are devoted to the degree that you plan to study in the future. For instance, if the field you want to go into is environmental engineering, instead of wasting your time doing debate team or chess club, you should be doing extracurriculars that directly align with this future major of environmental engineering, so that your application tells a clear story. Now that you've chosen your field, the next step is to identify your archetype. Your archetype is so important because it's the medium through which you're going to demonstrate excellence and show the admissions committee that you're one of the most promising students in the world for this major. After analyzing hundreds of successful applications, I've found that almost every top applicant falls into one of the following 5 archetypes. The first one is the entrepreneur, which is the student who has built a non-profit, startup, or social enterprise that is making a tangible impact. The second archetype is the researcher, who is the student who's already conducting high levels of research and is working towards solving a major research problem in a field. The third archetype is the athlete, and this is the student who's competing at the elite level for their sport and is actively being recruited by colleges for it. The fourth archetype is the student advocate, and this is the student who is driving change through activism, policy work, or social justice activities. And archetype number 5 is the student academic, which is the student who dominates academic competitions such as math olympiads, science fairs, or national debate competitions. If you don't fit into one of these archetypes, your application will likely feel generic, and it will be difficult for colleges to understand how you stand out. What top students do is, from a very young age, they select their field and their archetype early on so that they can dedicate multiple years to reinforcing an identity that colleges can understand and relate to. So if you want to succeed in college admissions in 2025, my biggest piece of advice is to select your field and archetype as soon as possible and use that to build an identity that colleges can understand and relate to. Alright, so you've spent a couple years building an exceptional profile. You've picked your field, solidified your archetype, and stacked your resume with high impact experiences. But none of that matters if you don't know how to package your application correctly. The application is where most students crash and burn. So let's break down your resume, personal statement, supplemental essays, and letters of recommendation, which are going to decide whether you're going to get in or get rejected. For your resume, admissions officers typically spend less than 60 seconds scanning it. If your resume doesn't immediately scream, "This applicant is elite," you're gonna get tossed into the rejection pile. The secret to standing out with your resume is to show impact. A weak resume will say something like "volunteered as a tutor." A winning resume will say "founded a tutoring non-for-profit that helped 500 students raise their math scores by an average of 30%. See the difference there? Numbers, leadership, and real-world change. That's what makes your resume pop. If you need a winning resume template, I've linked my very own personal resume that got me into every single Ivy League that I applied to, and I've also attached 5 more resume templates for you to consider when designing yours. Next up is the personal statement, which is the single most important document. A killer personal statement can make up for weak grades, but a weak personal statement can destroy a perfect application. If you're sitting there staring at a blank page, here's a 1,000-word personal statement structure that I think works every single time. First, spend 250 words describing your life story, then 150 words on your professional achievements that highlight your dedication to a specific field, then 100 words on your lifelong ambitions, followed by 250 words on why the school's program is critical for you achieving your goals, and then finally 150 words on how you plan to contribute to the student's school campus and student body, and a 100-word conclusion to round everything out, summarize your main points, and kind of reinforce your enthusiasm for the school. If you want to see this structure in action and hopefully use it to inspire your very own writing, you can check out my personal statement for free in the description that got me into Harvard on a full ride scholarship. And yeah, just be sure to check it out because it's a great resource. For supplemental essays, most students see this as kind of like a bonus piece rather than being a critical part of their application. The good news is you can use this weakness to get ahead of your competition. So here's my simple past, present, and future framework that works for almost any extra supplemental essay prompt. You start with an event in your past that kind of helps to start off the essay, then you bring it into the present to explain what you're currently doing in relation to that passion project or extracurricular, and then finally you talk about the future and how the college is going to allow you to explore that passion or extracurricular at their campus. This simple structure ensures you're able to tell a compelling story and not just regurgitate your resume. And if you want my free 10-page supplemental essay guide, check it out in the description, and it will help you to see how to answer the most common supplemental essays. For recommendation letters, most students think that the quality of them is out of their control, but that's completely false. The difference between a generic letter and a powerful recommendation letter comes down to one thing: how much information you give the recommender. Here's the critical move that's going to allow you to get a great recommendation letter. When you ask a teacher, coach, or mentor to write you a letter, send them an email with everything they need to write an incredible recommendation letter. This should include your resume, your statement of purpose or personal statement, your key experiences that you've had with the teacher or mentor, and also the specific qualities that you'd love them to highlight in the recommendation letter. The more information you give them, the stronger the letter will be. And if you want to see my email template for reaching out to recommenders, again, check it out in the description. Once you've submitted your application, there is one final hurdle: the interview. And let's be real here. A bad interview can sink an exceptional application. As someone who's been through countless interviews over the years, here is my advice on how you can prepare for your interview in 2025. The first step is to start by writing out answers to the most common Ivy League interview questions, which I've put in the description in my 10-page interview guide. You don't need to memorize these answers, but you do need to know your main talking points. Once you've drafted your answers, step 2 is to try and do 3 to 5 mock interviews. Grab a friend, a teacher, or a mentor and practice interviewing out loud. The key here is that the first time you answer a question, it should not be in your actual interview. You should be preparing in your mock interviews. And then step number 3 is to be human. A lot of students come into their Ivy League interviews being incredibly nervous and robotic, but that's not what interviewers are looking for. They're looking for someone interesting, curious, and genuine, and someone who's gonna be a good fit for the campus. So all you gotta do is just be genuine and be yourself at the end of the day. And that's gonna do it for this video. If you've made it this far, you're already ahead of 99% of students because you're taking your future college admissions dreams seriously. As always, if you want free one-on-one college admissions support from myself, fill out my website form at the top of the description and make sure you're subscribed because I select one new student to help each week for free. And again, if you want instant access to all my world-leading college admissions resources, again, they're at the top of the description. Now go build that dream application. Good luck.